Welcome, folks. We are broadcasting live here from the original Pancake House, and where the hell are we?
Burnsville.
Oh, not really live or Memorex. Does that even mean anything?
I don't even know if that company's still around.
I don't think it is. Because we're in the waning days of summer, and as we record this, there's one day left of the state fair. All the newscasters and radio stations are like, we're broadcasting live from the fair. So I just feel like since we're such a national treasure, but less of a state treasure, let's pretend we're at the fair. Well, we got a great booth here at the fair, and that'll work until we eat our pancakes and we just shut up.
Yes. Well, and also, if we were at the state fair, I'd be over at the root beer stand.
Oh, and I would probably be somewhere eating Pronto Puffs and deep fried Twinkies. Yeah, no diabetes here.
Do you ever do the deep fried candy bars?
I did the first year they were out. They disintegrate.
Yes.
There's nothing inside them. So I was fairly disappointed. But
they don't have the one thing that I saw at the Texas State Fair that I would want to try.
Which is?
Deep fried beer.
Yes, I read about that, and we're all confused as to how they did it. But being that it just took I suppose it's been a number of years. Minnesota was always like, you can only have beer in this section of the grounds. Now, you can go anywhere you want, but the beer and other tasty alcoholic beverages are in clear cups, whereas things like the root beer will be in non-clear cups.
So you can walk around with a glass of beer.
Oh, yeah. And it also allows them to, they have a Minnesota wine house where you go and check local wineries across the streets, craft beers. Different places can serve alcohol if they want. It's just not all segregated in one area.
Oh, that's good.
But that's not why we're here today.
I was going to stay home and mix the podcast and then watch all the football that I taped on Thursday.
And I was, I don't know what I was going to do.
We were going to record, too.
Record, and then I'd probably put stuff on eBay, or I'd just sit and stare at the screen and wonder what I should be doing instead of staring at the screen doing nothing, wondering what I should be doing. Instead, we noticed that one of the shops, Mind's Eye Comics, and was that Burnsville too?
Yes.
Had a 70% off graphic novel sale. We've been there before, Black Friday, right? With Bush. And I told Cory, hey.
If you guys want to do any maple syrups, I've got a tropical for the banana and blueberry for the blueberry.
That should be good for me.
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay. That was our waitress. In reality, we are in the original Pancake House. So she will interrupt occasionally. We would flirt with her, but Cory and I have gone beyond the cute stage and are now in the creepy old men stage. Although the more they put up with, the bigger the tip, so it all works out. Anyways, a very good use of social media. They posted that they were doing 70% off Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, kind of the Memorial Day sale because they're closed Memorial Day. And I messaged it to Cory, and Cory said, I'm going Sunday. I said, well, why don't we go and then find a place where we record our podcast, eat some pancakes? Sadly,
he messaged me while I was at work, and I could not think of a way to get out of work to go.
Yeah.
Because the minute I found out, first thing that was into my head was, by the time I get there Sunday, the place will just be barren. But it wasn't.
No. And you asked the Megan, who was the very friendly, very knowledgeable woman behind the counter, what the deal was. Because, of course, anytime we see 70% off, the first thing we're worried about is, oh my God, are they going out of business?
They're going to tap out.
But she said a lot of it is stuff that they inherited from the old shop, and they changed ownership. And that was
a year and a half ago.
Yeah. Because you remember, we went to the original place on Black Friday, and then we had to use our Google Maps to figure out where we were going.
Well, and then Google Maps sent us into a parking lot.
Yeah.
And we were like, I don't see it, because it's on the other side of this apartment building.
Yeah, matter of fact, I wrote the street down it was on. I'm going to scare Cory because now he's going to see I do take notes for the show occasionally. Traveler's Trail. So I got off Highway 13 on Nicollet and I went to Traveler's Trail. And as you're driving, you see it it's one of those newer complexes where they got retail in the bottom level and apartments or condos above it. So it was well, their old store was very big, probably 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. This one's maybe half that, so they probably are still liquidating stuff down. And Cory and I were talking about this before we sat. You know, that's kind of what Pat and I and what I did when I had Hot Comics is when the sales would come around, our key thing was 70% off back issues, because even then back issues were maybe 10% of our total all sales. And I mean, we didn't totally do it. A lot of times I'd go through and pick out like the good stuff, you know, because I was going to 70% off that. I may be crazy, but I'm not stupid. Well, I did kind of 2 comic shops, so I suppose there's a lot. Good Lord, we call that the Widowmaker. But yeah, no, she had said they got all this old stock, they're just moving it. Matter of fact, she was just saying either later that day or while we were there, she was going to consolidate stuff down. But we found quite a bit of stuff. Cory wins, though. What was your retail?
My retail was $709.62.
And your actual?
$212.94.
I was behind him. I had $493, clocked in at $158.69, and that was after starting with an embarrassing $116. So I said, Cory, go up there, grab all the Distant Soils on the shelf you can. I grabbed not only Sandman Mystery Theater, but 2 of the Starman omnibuses. Got up to a little more respectable total. So we've got our itemized slips here. So
well, we should also talk about a shop that we've talked about a couple of times is closing down.
Yeah, there's I actually have it in my freaking. It's make sure I'm in the right. Level Up Games. We actually were there. When did we do if you listen to our...
It's about a month ago.
Yeah, the podcast where we visited some southern stores in Minnesota. And we stopped at their Hastings store and then visited their South St. Paul store because we could. They're closing their Eagan and their South St. Paul store. They didn't say why. They didn't say what. Everything this weekend's 50% off, but they're going to be doing it over the next 2 months. Now, the Hastings store is just it's what, maybe an eighth of what the South St. Paul store is? And I'm curious as to why they would keep Hastings open versus anywhere else. South St. Paul store seemed to be doing pretty good. Listening to the...
You got to remember, I bet the rent in Hastings is a lot less.
Maybe not in downtown. That's a historic area. So that's kind of a key selling area. Maybe it is. I don't know for sure. But one thing that somebody mentioned is these guys have suffered under road construction all summer, and that made it kill their casual sales. I mean, I remember going to visit them and going down the road I normally go, and they're like, closed because of construction, and I just barreled through. And yeah, the road was closed, but it was passable. But people were just trying to get there, and you don't know how to navigate it, South St. Paul, or you're not using Google. I had that at Hot Comics once, where both the roads north and south were closed. And if it wasn't for the fact that I had subscribers and good customers, it would have killed me.
Yeah.
And all the other businesses on the strip there were livid because it was like, okay, the county closed the road north of us and the city closed the road south of us. Nobody coordinates, so they basically just cut off the lifeblood of how these people get to the businesses. Now we're talking food.
Where the blueberry?
I did. All right.
I had the banana.
Everything look good?
Everything looks wonderful.
Any hot sauce or ketchup at all?
I had bacon. Couple bacon strips.
2-piece or?
2, I believe, yeah.
All right, sounds good. I'll be right back. Any hot sauce or ketchup while I'm at it?
Nope, we're good.
All right. So now that the food has come and so rudely interrupted us, Cory is having a delightful pancake medley of bananas. I don't know if they're baked into the pancakes or if they're just on top
piled
of
on top.
it. And then you, what is that? Banana
Tropical
syrup?
syrup.
Oh, tropical syrup. He also ordered hash browns with cheese. I copied him. I copied him on the hash brown and cheese, but I went with the blueberry pancakes because you know me and my blueberry. I got blueberry syrup. I did inquire about something. I may have to come back sometime. The what was it? Some baked apple pancakes,
Yes.
but it takes 20 minutes to do. And other than the fact I don't want to wait and watch Cory eat, it's really, really terrible. And the fact that I'm hungry now, I was like, you know what? I think I'll just wait. Oh, thank you. So there will be a pause while we momentarily consume our delicious breakfast. I didn't actually.
The Solitaire Rose Radio Network has all sorts of podcasts for you. There's, of course, Crazy Comics and Stories, where myself and Crazy Joe Ryder get together once a week to talk comics. We review comics, we talk about upcoming comics, we talk about comics history. Anything that has to do with comics, we're going to talk about. We also have Series in Review, where we review series and kind of give a DVD commentary of past comics that we've enjoyed. There is also Solitaire Rose Radio. Solitaire Rose Radio is my solo show where I discuss upcoming comics, past comics, comics history, and interview comics creators. These are all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. There's also the podcast I'm proudest of. That's Novelcast, where I take the novels that I have written and turn them into audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. Over at Bad Advice, myself, Dan Moore, and Wolfie B. Bad take your questions and give you bad advice. It's at badadvice.solitairerose.com. Now, don't think that I'm doing all the podcasts, because there's also Scrabbling Across the West by Dave Coffell and Stephanie Coffell. Dave is a musician and Stephanie is his wife. They travel the country performing music and playing Scrabble over at scrabbling.solitairerose.com. And finally, the newest member of the Solitaire Rose Radio group, that's Fantastic Forecast, where myself and host of For the Love of Comics, Adam Vermillion, go over the series The Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's available at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. If you would like to advertise on any of these podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
So here we go. Does Joe know? Where did the last Quest Pro comic get published?
Marvel Fanfare. It was the X-Men one.
Yep.
I never could get that game figured out. I looked for walkthroughs on it because I had the Hulk one, and then I think it was a Human Torch one. But it was for an Apple computer, and I had Commodores at the time, so I couldn't play it. I sold it, though, on eBay. I mean, I figured somebody would want it.
Now, did you play Hitchhiker's Guide?
I did.
How far did you get?
I don't recall. I do remember having to reboot to get the damn devilfish, but I don't remember where I stopped. I had another one I'd love just to read through.
We could never get past where you get shucked into space by the Bogons.
I don't know if I made it that far. I must have. I was just reading online. Every time Douglas Adams redid, like whether he did the radio show or the TV show or into the movie.
Can I refill some Diet Cokes?
He would always write something new, you know, or tweak it a bit, so that way it's not the exact same thing, which drives some people nuts, but to me it's kind of interesting that he did that, which makes me now want to go watch the movie that everybody panned.
My son loved that movie, and for me it was like, I don't need this story again.
I'm just curious as to what he tweaked to make it different. Now, I did find out, had you kept the Marvin action figure, it's about $100 now.
Oh.
I would have liked the original Marvin action figure, but nobody listens to me.
Now, was Douglas Adams still alive when that movie came out?
I don't know. From what I read, it sounds like he was. But I'd have to check that out. If somebody wrote, and you're reading the comments on some group, and some guy went, "Oh yeah, Douglas Adams, did write a script for it or something." And although I don't know if that was true or not. It has to be true. It was on the interwebs.
And DC did an adaptation of all the 3 books.
Yeah.
He didn't do the 4th and the 5th.
Nope. Because he's talking, he should have let. He's disappointed he did the 3rd book.
At least they had fun by saying it was the 4th book in the trilogy.
Yeah.
Which Rush did as well. They put out a 4th song in the Fear trilogy.
Wow, I gotta work. Maybe we'll come up to our volume 4 eventually.
We haven't even done volume 2.
We'll get there. We could do like McFarlane did, just do them out of order.
Well, we haven't restarted with the new number 1.
It's been done.
I know, that's why I'm not interested.
Although, did we ever do a replacement 52?
We don't talk about episode 52.
But you know how when Eric Larson was doing Savage Dragon and issue 13 was Image Month where everybody switched comics?
Yes.
And he didn't want to do it because he wanted to do like Jack and Stan did and do a complete run without interruption. So he did do it, and Jim Lee did that, and then eventually he put out the real 13.
Right.
And of course, you can't publish the Jim Lee version because it's got characters that DC owns now.
Well, they could. They just have to work out an agreement.
I don't think there's true.
Yeah, that's what I would say.
It's kind of like he wanted to do something with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And I forget how he did it, like issue 200, issue 20, or a certain number sequence. He came up to one, they had sold the rights to Nickelodeon, and it became such a headache. And he said, it's not even worth my time to do it.
Everything's getting sold to Nickelodeon.
As soon as Disney buys them, then the circle will be complete.
Well, they bought Garfield.
When's someone going to buy our podcast?
I'd sell it for $1.50.
There, you got our offer. Now we need a counter offer. $1.50, I only got $1.49. The deal is off. Now the sad part was in between the pause when we got our food and we decided to turn this back on. There was a birthday party going on across from us. And you missed Cory and I singing a rendition of Happy Birthday that utterly stunned everybody in the restaurant.
I don't do Happy Birthday to my son when he gets older. We sing that They Might Be Giant song older.
That's kind of like rubbing your nose in it.
I think it's great that I tell my son, you're older than you've ever been, and now you're even older. And now you're even older. And now you're older still.
He's done now. It's like, it's all the way to July, and then we're trying to get like a month more.
I'm helping him understand mortality.
Yes.
So it's all good.
I think I'm going to quit now.
Oh, yeah.
I ate most of my hash browns, the crunchy parts. I got the burnt one the way I like it. I must be on file somewhere. Hey, that guy likes some burnt hash browns. Here.
You want your potatoes caramelized.
Damn straight. There we go.
Thanks for all that extra noise.
I know. And Cory did make me wear pants, although I am wearing my Spider-Man underwear.
Now, is it Spider-Man or is it the clone?
No, this is Spider-Man.
Is it Spider-Man or is it the Ultimate Spider-Man?
Well, it's more black than red, so I would say Spider-Man. It doesn't have the Miles Morales discoloring.
Is it the superior Spider-Man?
Definitely not. Because I got these before he was around.
You don't want an octopus in your underwear?
Well, having watched Babylon 5 and realizing the advantage the Centauris have, because they have 6 genitalia, and it goes into the back of the female. But it's also very advantageous when you're playing cards, because you can have one go out and like lift a card.
Oh.
Although if somebody sees it and happens to stamp on it with a book, oh, very painful. That screaming you heard was Cory's Diet Coke being drunk.
Now, I have played a game where cheating is encouraged. The Illuminati card game.
Oh, I remember that.
Cheating is encouraged as long as you don't get caught.
I did that once. Actually, there was a board game I thought of that, because I remember playing it with some friends, and I was the banker, but I kept taking money in the bank and adding it to my pile. And the one guy who was across from me noticed when 2 guys got up and they were planning. He looked at me and said, "I see what you're doing." And so I gave him some money to shut up. And then, of course, when we were done, the 2 guys who were plotting against us were trying to figure out how they lost, because they went on, we're like, well, we were stealing. Well, that's not fair. It's not the point.
It says in the rules, you can cheat if you don't get caught.
The card game came out after we played, and this had to have been more of a board game than a card game.
Well, what it was, you had cards and you would lay them down. That's how the Illuminati game worked.
No, I'm saying it was a game before the card game.
Yeah.
Because the card game was
That was a collectible card game.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
But the original was also cards. And you would, okay, well, this is controlling this.
Yeah, that's what we played. Because when the collectible card game came out, my friends didn't want to play it at all. Mainly because we couldn't get it together all the time. And that was about the time we went to one of those things and I got the complete box set of it, including a bunch of blank cards. And I sat on it. And then a friend of mine, Dave Zerk, he's one of the musicians of Coyote Ugly. We had way back when. A Joe Prize for anybody who remembers when. And he had given me his comic book collection before he moved out of state, and I lost track of him. And then he called me up and he said, "Hey, I just wanted to know about the comics that he gave me." I said, "I got something perfect for you." I said, "You play the Illuminati card game?" And he goes, "Yes." I said, "Okay. Every time I played anything with you, you always had this attitude that you knew something I didn't, or that you were ahead of the game, even though later on I realized you did not." You say, "I don't know what you're talking about."
See, I'm ready for the check. Are we doing 1 or 2?
I will do 2.
We'll do 2.
Okay,
I'm not
I'll
feeling
be
generous today.
I spent a lot of money on comics.
I spent less than you, so that's no big deal. Anyways, so I told him, I said, "Dude, I got something, I'm going to send it to you. I'm not going to tell you what it is, but when you get it, if you don't like it, just call me and I'll make it right. But I can guarantee you're going to love this, and the guys you're playing the card game with are going to hate me if you choose it." And I sent him that box set.
Oh, okay.
So, and I talked to him later, he goes, "Oh yeah," because he has one of every card now, plus blank card. So, just brilliant.
Now, I never did play the Marvel superhero game that came out around that time, Overpower.
Yeah, I never did either. I think the last, about when Magic Ice Age hit, is when the group I played Magic with kind of drifted off, and I stopped playing it. And I think I've sold off everything except like one deck, which I believe, after looking at the rules, has been banned. So I can't play no more.
Yeah, we put this out. You can't use it.
I can't use it.
It's bad. It's wrong.
Oh. Okay, now are we going to do it? Take our list and tell people what we bought?
Might as well.
All right. I guess I'll go first since my list is smaller. Now, the first one. All right. Hey, you are up front.
Maybe.
Okay.
Yes.
Oh, right in the water. Good going, Strode. Jeez.
Everything's in the water.
I know. See, I found a little dry spot. Okay. So the first one I got was so old that they did not have a barcode for it. But she found it. It was a DC prisoner book. And I don't know what it says. Just prisoner shot. Shattered Image, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Shattered Image by Dean Motter.
A book I ignored when it came out, Action Comic 1000. Or 80 years of
Oh, the
action.
80 years of.
Yeah, I picked that up for the heck of
That's
it.
a nice anthology.
And a lot of this is, you know what, you know how I roll. If I read it and I don't like it, I'll eBay it or give it to the charity. Signal to Noise. I think that was Neil Gaiman.
Neil Gaiman and Dave McKeon, I believe.
I don't have a copy of it. I did put back Violent Cases because I do believe I have a copy of that. A book called Fear and Loathing, Hunter S. Thompson graphic novel. I'm still trying to finish off my Fables run. I did find one, Fables Volume 16. A book I wasn't sure about, Planet of the Apes, Green Lantern crossover. I think it's the classic Planet of the Apes, but anytime you have superheroes, it just seems such a bizarre... Whatever, I'm going to read it and probably sell it. Still trying to figure out my Chew collection.
Chew.
So Chew. So I picked up the last two, since I don't know the other ones I have. They have the Shalone Cowboy magazine, which I do not have. I don't know, it looked interesting. Swamp Thing Volume 8. That's, I believe, Rick Vike was doing it at that time, after Adam Moore, Secret Batman. Alan Moore left. I picked up two books on Top 10, which I have never read, the first series, and then I guess the spin-off from it. Starman Omnibus 1 and 2, Sandman Mystery Theater 1 and 2. All right.
We'll be right here.
As I'm looking at it, Distant Soil 1, 2, 3, and 4. I told Colleen Doran I was going to wait for the omnibus that would come out, but what the heck, I'll pick them up, read them. Because she's trying to remaster everything. I don't know if something happened, like her original, what do they call it, the film?
Yeah, the original film is bad.
Or not, she can't have access to it or something. People tried to screw her when she was younger. And I have a number of books, I cannot tell what they are, like a JLA Presents, but I don't know what it presents. It had to be something that had somebody's name on it that I recognized. A couple other hardcovers, Madame Frankenstein. Actually, I think that was an Image book, black and white. And there's a few other ones. I'm not sure what the heck they were. All right. Souvenirs?
Here we go.
Oh, nice.
Thanks for coming, you guys.
All right,
Have a
thank
great
you.
rest of your day.
You as well. So that was my haul, and it would have been bigger, but like I said, I couldn't find my list of graphic novels that I'm missing. I'll probably find it as soon as I get home, which will be next week's Freaking, because I'll be most upset. Although they're open till 6, I could always run back. And the other thing is I really haven't read a lot of the books I picked up from the Black Friday run.
Oh, shall I get my list?
Yes.
Here we go. Zorro Mantanza, which is the last miniseries that Don McGregor and Mike Mayhew did. And I don't even think Topps completely printed the whole thing.
Is that...
But Dynamite printed it.
Oh, that's what it was, yeah.
Shadow Midnight. The Shadow.
Oh,
That's the miniseries at Dynamite that Howard Chaykin did.
oh, fun. Wait, from DC?
No.
Oh.
He did one recently through Dynamite.
Oh, that ought to be twisted.
Let's see, 2 big Wolverine collections that collect a bunch of one-shots because it's like, oh, I haven't ever read these. X-Men Blue number 0. That is kind of when Joe Kelly and Alan Davis took over the X-Men and started to do this big story, and then editorial went, no, we don't want to do that. They fired them both. But they reprint their entire run. That's the one that ended with, well, it didn't end with it, but do you remember the X-Men story in the 90s where Cyclops and Jean Grey go up to Alaska, and Jean is starting to freak out, and then the big cliffhanger was she freaked out in the snow and a phoenix symbol melted around her. And they were going to do a big story running out of that, but instead Marvel was like, nah, we're bringing in somebody else who'll listen to editorial.
Brilliant. I must have been back when I was just selling the comics and not reading it.
Let's see. Thor, Gods and Deviants, which reprints a bunch of miniseries. Vampirella, the Dynamite Archives, which reprints the first bunch of books from Dynamite. Mm-hmm. It's an omnibus. Let's see, what else does I have here? ROM, the ROM from IDW, complete series.
You're not missing much.
Well, let's see, how much did I pay for it? I paid $7.50. $7.50.
That's about $7.49 too much. And I'm a ROM fan.
Curse of Dracula, which was the story by Marv Wolfman and Gene Colan that they did for Dark Horse. I was actually going to pick that up at an online store, but, you know, hey, 70% off meant it was $3.
Cool.
Red Sonja Omnibus 2 and 3. The first Dynamite run.
Fun stories.
Queen and Country 2, 3, and 4. I only have book 1, so it was nice to get 2, 3, and 4. That's a Greg Rucka comic, and absolutely love it. It's one of the more realistic spy books that's ever been made. Let's see here. Doctor Who Omnibus number 2 from IDW. Legion of Extraordinary Gentlemen 3 Century, which reprints the 1910, 1968, 2009 in a nice hardcover.
What was that?
That was top shelf through IDW.
Okay.
Action Comics 1000 and Detective Comics 1000, the hardcovers.
Oh, fun.
Which I was going to order when they came out, but I missed them for some reason. And then it was, you know, nah. And I was actually going to pick them up through a sale on In-Stock Trades this weekend. But again, In-Stock Trades 45%, this store 70%. Guess who wins?
Yay!
Checkmate Volumes 1 and 2, the Greg Rucka run. Another Greg Rucka. Avengers Epic Collection number 22. That is Operation Galactic Storm.
Which I recall as a good read.
It was okay. I just hated the end where it becomes an argument about how should we kill the Supreme Intelligence or not.
Oh, yeah.
And the Avengers split into 2 teams over it. Let's see. Iron Man, Director of S.H.I.E.L.D. Story I've never read.
I did read that. That was I enjoyed it.
They had some DC showcases. So I picked up the DC showcase for the JLA number 5. Let's see, the Black Lightning, which reprints the regular series that Tony Isabella did in the 90s.
You could really tell a difference when he was, or that was the new one he did, or?
That was the one he did in the 90s.
Okay. I picked up like the 70s one.
Yeah. Let's see, Blood, which is a graphic novel by Neil Adams I'd never heard of. It had a fancy 3D cover. And then Marvel, what was that? The Marvel Frontier, the complete collection, which reprints all of those Marvel UK Frontier, where they looked at Vertigo and went, well, we could do that with more fighting.
As you were talking, I now remember what the JLA Presents was. Aztec.
Oh, yes.
Because I've
That
never
is an
read
awesome,
it. And
awesome book.
I gotta say, the one thing I didn't do going through these graphic novels is, and I wanted to, but again, I'm on. Well, it's always limited funds. But where, you see a name like, okay, Wade, Moore, Allen,
Grant Morrison.
Morrison, Ellis. A lot of times I would in sales like this, I just just grab the name and let the chips fall where they may. But I kind of held back. My wife won't think so, but we were restrained, mainly because you got a couple things coming up. Minnesota Toy Geek is getting ready to do one of their geeks coming up. You got the why can't I think of the name? There's a place they go under Minnesota comic book conventions, and they're doing a show up in northern Twin Cities area on the 8th, and it's just a dealer show, no big deal. And then of course, I'm trying to find the Midwest Comic Book Association has their thing coming up.
Really?
I know. You would think it would be right on top. There we go. A one-day wonder, October 5th, 2019, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., 33,000 square feet in the State Fair Education Building.
Where you can get edumacated.
Yep. I'll be there at least. I'll probably be at the front door the first couple hours, and then Groove and I will be wandering around. And if you're so inclined to bring something for next year's charity booth, let me know ahead of time, and I'll be there to pick it up for you.
Well, it's about time you were there for somebody.
I know.
Let's see what they say about your picture. I put up a picture of you.
I know. So you can see what I'm like when I get 70% off.
It looks like you fell asleep standing at the counter.
I think of it more as a 70% orgasmic face.
It's pretty nice to get $700 worth of hardcovers and trade paperbacks for $200.
Yeah.
Worth the drive. Thank goodness I had the overtime and everything at both jobs. See, somebody put wowzers, and you don't watch wrestling anymore, but I've started doing the Bray Wyatt. Yowie, wowie.
So what else you got going on today?
Well, I got to mix the podcast for tomorrow, and that takes, we talked for over 90 minutes. It takes about 2.5 hours to mix.
Yep.
Now, the good thing is that I've gotten so good at it, I can actually do other things while I do that. So I usually...
Whoa, we haven't talked about that since the incident.
No, I read comics.
I'm not shaking your hand, that's all I'm saying. Oh, good man. Okay, sorry, I'm way off base in that.
You're always way off base.
I am.
No, I read comics while I do it.
Cool.
So I do have the Marvel 1000 to read.
I should be getting my box day this week, and you know what happens when we get our box days?
The previews.
Yay! So maybe next week, if not 2 weeks. You know how it works.
Yeah, I already have previews.
I don't. I'm suffering.
You're a slacker.
They were giving away the free Marvel DC ones at Mind's Eye, and I almost thought of picking them up, but I've got the point, I don't want to pick up irrelevant stuff that I'm just going to throw away later.
Yeah.
So.
But, they had the Marvel magazine. Did you pick that up?
I did pick that up. So.
That's a really nice... I like that because it's, okay, here's hype for the stuff that's coming out, the first issues and everything. They did a Boom #1, I think, 2 years ago or a year ago? I just wish they would have continued to put it out and call it Boom.
Yeah, that would have been cool. But they didn't. They don't listen to us.
Or, they could have called it Merry Marvel Marching Society.
You could have gone with both.
Or Wham!
Nah, forget Wham!
Wild Agents of Marvel.
Oh, yeah, but you got Sting involved. He'd be very pissed. Not the wrestling Sting. Although, maybe.
Now, did you enroll in Wild Agents of Marvel?
I did.
What did you get?
I got stationery, a pen, a neat envelope, a card, and promises of things I never delivered.
Yeah, that's what I remember. It's like they started it and then it was ignored.
I think I might have either used or sold off everything except the card, and Lord knows where that is.
Yeah, at least with Boom, you got a really cool magazine.
True. And they were probably worth something. So save that Marvel magazine. You never know, years from now, that might be the collectible you wish you had.
I doubt it.
I don't know. Some of those weird... I mean, have you seen... There's the Marvel Age that has the Stan Lee interview in that's nowhere else. Crazy money. The Marvel Malibu Sun that has the first Spawn in it. Predates Spawn 1. Silly money.
That's right. They would have...
is worth $20. It's not crazy like the Spawn is, but it's still...
Yeah,
these are all things that were just given away.
Because Malibu did publish the first few issues of the Image stuff.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they did the publishing until they took it over.
And the funny thing is,
the
they made so much money off that. That's how they had the money for the Ultraverse. They made so much money.
And we all know
they started their own comic line from the profits.
And we know how that panned out.
Yeah, they got bought by Marvel, and the people who owned it made silly money, and the creators got screwed.
Yep.
Which is how it always works.
And how, I bring up time and time again, why Disney isn't working with those characters. Well, we probably know, but...
We know why.
But
I like how Marvel will say, well, it's really complicated and da-da-da-da-da. And the creators all say the same thing. No, they just don't want to pay us.
That's Marvel. I don't know if Disney cares. They're probably so busy with all the characters they do have. Especially now that Disney Plus is less than 75 days away from starting.
You know what else Disney has said? They're going to be using Ms. Marvel as the new, quote, Spider-Man, unquote. They think that she's got legs enough that she will become this huge character outside of comics.
I could see that. I mean, like we talked about, the kids at the library are reading the hell out of those graphic novels.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a good story. I mean, I enjoyed reading it myself. I don't collect her, but, I'll go to the library and... Wait, I didn't even see any Ms. Marvel on the shelf when I was back
they
there.
were all gone.
Yeah, assuming they had any to begin with.
I was looking for some stuff, not brand new, but, within the last year or so. All their stuff that they had on sale was pretty much, more than 2-3 years old.
And that's like she had said. They're clearing out old stock they inherited. So might as well have a fun thing. Get a little extra cash heading into the fall season. This is one of those times of year where things change. People start going back to school, and I just remember having the shop waiting and getting ready to call people. Hey, it's been a couple weeks. Are you coming in? Mm-hmm. Did you forget? Did you move away? Did you win the lottery and now you're publishing comics? Silly mortal.
That could be what happened with Level Up too. They had a okay summer, but they know they're going into the fall, and if their summer was low, their fall's going to be really low because you don't have kids hanging out.
That's what I wonder, because I know when Brian had Hot Comics in Hastings, he had really good summer, but when the fall came, everything evaporated.
Yeah.
And while he was still paying rent on it, he kind of closed the retail operation to weekends and then used it more as a warehouse to then find things off to the other 2 stores he owned. So and that's the same thing too. I mean, we talked about going up to Healy and all that. Very busy. We were in Grand Marais, really busy. But that's summer. As soon as Labor Day hits, it's like somebody flipped a switch because everybody's back to work.
Well, it's not as nice. I mean, we're in Minnesota. The high today is only going to be, 70?
And the best part is going to be 80 tomorrow with humidity, and by 10 p.m. severe storms. So we got that to look forward to. Chris and I are going to go to the fair, and we're thinking we're going to get up early and then just by 7, 8 o'clock get on that bus and get home before the bad weather starts. But we should see it coming because it's going to form on the western suburbs, or western side of the state, and work our way this way.
Well, the cool thing is you can watch the tornado from inside the grandstand like we did at the convention back in, 2011.
That was a lark. It wasn't anywhere near us. But
everybody freaked out.
What you're going to have to realize, folks, is when you're in Minnesota, we like to talk about the weather, don't you know? Yeah, it looks to be a gold one. Don't know if it's going to be no sun. Put that suntan lotion on, it'll still come through the clouds,
I just thought it was weird. There was one morning I woke up, it's 50 degrees.
Yeah.
It's like, wait, not yet. It's August.
It'll be 50 degrees from Monday to Tuesday. That's supposed to be the low after the storms come through and push everything out. But then we get into, well, it's not fall weather, but 70 at night. Who cares about the weather in Minnesota?
I do. Because if it gets cold, I can't read comics out on the deck, and I've got 2 boxes of comics that I just bought.
Esther took all the boxes. I had to carry mine out.
It's good for you.
Yeah, that's why I had you carry the heavy stuff.
Well, yeah. Joe needs to start getting workouts.
I know.
Okay, the light's still on. We're still recording.
Well, I got my eBays and freaking and geeking if you want to do it.
Sure. So, Joe, what's going on the eBays?
Wait, before we do that, don't you want to talk about these guys, our sponsors?
Promotional consideration is paid for by the following sponsors. Our first sponsor is DreamHost.com. DreamHost.com has been with us since the beginning. They're the best web host in the whole known universe. And if you need a web host, and you do because, Facebook, Google+, everything gets hacked. But if you set up your own web page, it'll never get hacked. Unless you kind of make some mistakes or pick an easy password like password. But still, you can have your own web page. If you use the code KRAYZ, K-R-A-Y-Z, you get $20 off your first year. When you're at the office, do you often run to the vending machine for snacks? Those things are terrible for you. Instead, have snacks delivered to you. So go to Graze.com. Graze.com has healthy snacks that you can decide what kind of snacks you want, how often you want them, whether they get delivered to you, or if you choose them every time. I myself get the subscription box every 2 weeks so that I have healthy things to eat when I'm at work. You can get a free box by using the code CORYS3R5P. Matter of fact, use that code your 5th and your first box are free. Again, that's CORYS3R5P. If you'd like to advertise on any of the Solitaire Rose Podcast Network shows, you can. Just send us an email at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
Well, I was just going to edit that in, kind of like I do when I talk about the podcast I have coming
I'm
out.
just trying to make
like this.
The Solitaire Rose Radio Network has all sorts of podcasts for you. There's, of course, Crazy Comics and Stories, where myself and Crazy Joe Ryder get together once a week to talk comics. We review comics, we talk about upcoming comics, we talk about comics history. Anything that has to do with comics, we're going to talk about. We also have Series in Review, where we review series and kind of give a DVD commentary of past comics that we've enjoyed. There is also Solitaire Rose Radio. Solitaire Rose Radio is my solo show where I discuss upcoming comics, past comics, comics history, and interview comics creators. These are all at crazycomics.solitairerose.com. There's also the podcast I'm proudest of. That's Novelcast, where I take the novels that I have written and turn them into audiobooks. That's at novels.solitairerose.com. Over at Bad Advice, myself, Dan Moore, and Wolfie B. Bad take your questions and give you bad advice. It's at badadvice.solitairerose.com. Now, don't think that I'm doing all the podcasts, because there's also Scrabbling Across the West by Dave Coffell and Stephanie Coffell. Dave is a musician and Stephanie is his wife. They travel the country performing music and playing Scrabble over at scrabbling.solitairerose.com. And finally, the newest member of the Solitaire Rose Radio group, that's Fantastic Forecast, where myself and host of For the Love of Comics, Adam Vermillion, go over the series The Fantastic Four, 4 issues at a time. That's available at fantasticforecast.solitairerose.com. If you would like to advertise on any of these podcasts, you can. Just email me at solitairerosenetwork@gmail.com. Thanks.
Yeah, but what about my favorite part of the show? No, I'm not talking about where you pick up my check because I've given you an hour of stimulating conversation. Well, actually, because we're sitting in a restaurant, I really can't talk much about the eBays, but I did make a couple notes. First off, I mentioned last time I sold an Elvira Mistress of Darkness #5, the Virgin Art cover. The guy who bought it sent me a note saying the reason I bought this is because he owned the original art.
Oh,
And
wow.
I thought that was really cool. So I absolutely love to get feedback from stuff like that. I did list a bunch of things. If you're real interested to ever see what it is I've listed, and especially the newer stuff, when you go to my eBay store, and it's you either go through what Cory mentioned, look for Crazy, or just go Crazy Comics and Stuff, which is the name of my store. You get to the page and you go to the right side and it says sort. Just sort in terms of news listed, and you'll see what the new things are that I put on the eBays. Cory and I were talking about Labor Day. I mean, I'm going to the fair later today, or after we're done potting, I'll probably put some more stuff on. I don't talk a lot about what I've put on, because what I found out is a lot of times I get all excited, I'll mention it on the podcast, and by the time it drops, it sells. And I've had people like, where did this go? And I'm like, sorry, it sold. But I did find something, one of those hidden treasures, as to why I just don't take my stuff I don't want and just push it out the door. There's a book called Zombie Tramp. I believe it's
It's in the 60s. It's been around for a while.
well, this one is done by Dan Mendoza. And the book I have is from his first miniseries, published in 2010 under Super Real, which is the name of his company. It's a $100 book. Because
Yeah.
back then, nobody cared. I mean,
Yeah.
currently she's in, I think they're being published in Action Zone.
Yes.
Is that Antarctic, or is that
That's Action Lab.
Action Lab?
They're the people who do Ghoul Scouts and Athena Voltaire.
So, and if you want to see a naked zombie tramp, you can buy the variant cover. But his original stuff is very expensive, because back then he was doing it on his own. If you're looking for a copy of that book, I actually have one. It's the lowest price one on the eBays. Or you
How
can go
did
to
you get it?
I bought it because I
No.
like the character.
No.
So, but as I'm going through, you check these prices out, and you're like, Durr! And of course, you as a beloved listener of this here podcast, if you are so interested, I would even cut you a deal on it. So just give me a quick call, KRAYZ. And like I always like to say, I can't say it too loud because I don't want to disturb the patrons next to us. Come get some.
And now we get to my favorite part of the show. No, not where I ask for a big tall glass of maple syrup.
Frosty.
No, it's freaking and geeking. Joe, what are you freaking on?
Life. Don't talk to me about life. I got some shit going on. I haven't really talked about it on the podcast, but Cory and I talk about it. But whenever I just want to think in perspective, I just got to think I've got a friend who just lost his job. Just kind of went in and it was like, oh, well, we're just going to fire you. Why? Well, we investigated. What? Well, we can't tell you. That's why lawyers were invented. Another friend of mine found out she's got breast cancer. So, it kind of pales in what I'm going through, but it's like, Jesus, God, can't you just let up a little bit? And, we got shootings over here, hurricanes over there. And on top of that, Shazam is late. They canceled, 3 issues?
Yeah.
Have you heard why?
Yeah, it's late.
Yeah, but
They
why?
have to resolicit it. The
Yeah,
artist.
but and then I went and I looked. There's still 2 issues that haven't been canceled that aren't
the
out
artist.
yet. And I'm on the edge of canceling this book anyways, because it's just not holding my interest. We talked about Level Up Games closing. I'm kind of bummed about that. But I do have some interesting good news, but I'll talk about that when we get to geeking. Cory, what are you freaking on?
Well, the first thing is, we've got all these new people at work. Because we're heading into our busy season. Right now it's stone cold dead. But in about a month, it's going to be really busy. So they're bringing in all these new people and training them. And some of them don't have, manners. So I'm in the break room, and there's a woman on her phone, FaceTiming her boyfriend, arguing with him about how she doesn't care if he just got out of prison. They're shouting in the break room. When I go to the break room, I want to read my email. I want to see some funny stuff. I just don't want to,
You want a break?
Yeah. I don't want to listen to your interpersonal drama. All I can think is, if you act like that at work, I don't even want to know what you act like at home. Let's see. Marvel had a channel on Sirius XM.
Oh, cool.
I thought it was, celebrating 80 years of Marvel. And I thought, oh, this will be cool. And I tuned in, and it was awful. This comic came out in 1982. And here's a song that was popular in 1982. And the one that got me was in 1986. Thor, whatever, came out where Odin died. Many tears were shed. Which means we're going to be playing Tears for Fears. Ugh.
If they said it the way you intoned it,
It was that bad. And,
Marvel, you got Cory and I sitting here doing this for free. We will be willing to make something that's at least semi-interesting. You've already stolen about a half a dozen ideas from us anyways. Why not take this one?
the other thing was, it's like one song for each year, and then they repeated it. And then they repeated it, and the channel was only in place for a day. There were no interviews with creators. There was no talking about, the history of the company. It was just, this comic came out this year. Here's a song that's mildly related to it. A wasted opportunity and a waste of my drive into work. And my box day showed up. We got the last Creepy collection.
Ooh.
Why is it in the geeking? Why is it in the freaking, Joe?
Because it got damaged?
No, because it reprints those issues
Yeah.
and nothing else. The other books have had introductions, talking about the history, talking about what was going on at the company, interviews with creators. This one, nothing. I mean, this is in a lot of ways the most important collection of the last 5 or 6, because this is the end. But nothing. No information on why it was canceled, no information on what happened behind the scenes, no interviews with the people working on it. And I know, I looked at the creator list, most of the creators that were in those last issues are still alive. They could have talked to them, they could have interviewed them. Nope, sorry, no news for you. Joe, what you geeking on?
Let's see. I jumped on board. I'm signed up for Disney Plus.
Ooh, I need to do that, because if you join Disney 23,
yeah,
you
but
get
it takes 36 hours, up to 36 hours to get the invite. And if you don't get it before December 2nd, I think if you signed up now, you would still qualify for it.
Yeah.
And I found out because our old buddy Dan Wiesemeyer, he lives on top of Disney. It's such fun to watch his Facebook feed because I went here for this, I went here for that. I gotta send him a note because they have these thermal detonator size Cokes.
Yes.
That TSA is losing their shit over.
Yeah.
And it's not because they look like thermal detonators, it's because they're over 3.4 ounces. But people are like, how can you take those? Same reason we take any liquids. Takes TSA, takes stuff away. Anyways, I signed up
for it. Now, the good thing is, because TSA's taking them away, a lot of people who have TSA friends will be getting them for Christmas.
You'd like to think that, but I saw what they did with these. Actually, the people who are in charge of cleaning the airport, they will give them as friends.
Oh, okay.
So, anyways, I signed up for it. It's $3.99 a month. You sign up for like 3 years for $150 or something.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was.
I got to do that.
Yeah, it's a brilliant deal. I know you chastised me about selling one of my omnibuses, so I went and I bought another one. I bought the Earth X omnibus from half price.
Which one? The first one or second one?
Whatever the current one was.
Because there's 2.
Yeah. So
for Earth X, there's part 1 and part 2.
Well, this one said it had Paradise X in it.
So that's 2.
Okay, because that's a piece I don't have, but they had it. It ended up being like $40, and I thought. And then, of course, by the time I did tax and shipping, I was like, it went back to what I could have got it on eBay for. But Half Price sent me like a coupon, 40% off any one online purchase. So I bit. Let's see. There's more Disney news. Disney is putting stores in Targets.
Yes.
And the one we have will be up in Maple Grove. And it should be open, I think they said in October. So hopefully that'll work. They're only putting in so many across, like I think 22 before the end of the year and 40 next year. But I'll be able to get up there and check it out, give you an idea what it is. It's supposed to have exclusive stuff, but I've been to the Disney store in the mall. Is that even there?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
I haven't been to the mall in a while. Watching, my wife and I started Lucifer. That's the show that was on Fox a while back, and Netflix. Did they do one season?
They've done one season, and I
doing
believe they picked it up for another one.
They're doing a final season. They're going to let them close out, which is cool. It's kind of interesting because the first season was 13 episodes, 18 episodes, 26 episodes, and then 10. So,
yay, Fox!
We watched the first two. Again, you were talking like mindless stuff to watch at night. This kind of fits the bill. I did watch the Avengers DVD. My wife and I cut it up over 2 nights because she was tired but wanted to watch it. It was fun.
Well, guess what, kittens and caboodles? The recording cuts off right there because the battery went dead on the recorder. If you notice, I was checking the battery every so often. Is it still recording? Is it still recording? Well, it cut off before it got to what I am geeking on. So, here's what I'm geeking on. I didn't geek on a whole lot on that episode, but I will geek on a few more things. The first thing I'm geeking on is Marvel Comics 1000. Yes, it's a gimmick, but it's a cool gimmick. They have different creative teams for each page, and each page ties into something the year of the page. So the first page is 1939. It's, the creation of the Human Torch. And each year it has something that ties in with a comic event or some sort of big deal that happened that year. It was more than just a single page story. It had a running thread through it that creates a new character with a cosmic type of origin. Some of the individual pages were just amazing. I thought that Roy Thomas's page about the creation of Wolverine, from 1974, the first appearance of Wolverine, I thought that was just hilarious and very well done. Yes, it's $9.99, but it's an 80-page graphic novel with a ton of classic creators. I guess issue 101 has even more creators in it. I don't know how many pages it is. I picked it up not knowing that there would be an issue 101 and that there would be a hardcover collection that would come out afterward. But I will be getting the hardcover, which has all sorts of extras. Speaking of extras, the other thing I am geeking on is the hardcover of Marvel Comics #1. Now, I had passed up on it because back, I think at the 50th anniversary, they reprinted Marvel Comics #1, just the comic, and, a couple of essays in a hardcover. And I bought that, and I also have it in an omnibus form, and they've reprinted it as a regular comic, and on and on and on. Now, I don't need to buy this again. But what it is, this is a huge book. It's over 250 pages, and it's got extra stories and extra information, and it was just lovingly put together. It is a wonderful package if you're into comics history. Doc Vassalero, who is kind of the art expert for Timely and Atlas Comics, and actually is the person who discovered who inked Marvel Comics. I mean, he's the guy who does a lot of their artist identification, including identifying who the inker was on Fantastic Four #1. So if you're into the history like I am, this is a wonderful book. Highly recommended. And I'm kind of sad that I didn't wise up and read it more into it before it came out. I actually had to pick it up. I had to actually go find it rather than it coming in my box. Speaking of older stuff that showed up in my box, I talked a little about the Marvel Master of Suspense Steve Ditko book. It's the first of 2 volumes. Last summer, they put out the Monster Bus, which was a collection of the monster stories, mostly by Kirby, but a few other artists. And this is a 2 omnibus collection of all of the short twist ending stories that Steve Ditko did while he was at Marvel. It's also got some of his really early stuff, like his early Western. I've talked about it a little in the past, but I actually was able to sit down, and I'm about halfway through it now. And not only do you see Ditko's art just getting better and better, almost story by story, but these stories, for what they are, which are just short stories with a twist ending, they really stand up. I'm not going to say any of them are classics, but it's really clear that Stan enjoyed writing these, and he felt that they were kind of a step above what he normally did, probably because of his love of the EC stuff. He really loved the EC stuff, and throughout Atlas and Marvel's history, you can see where he's cribbing from EC. Not really so much stories, but the type of story that he told were the ones he was proud of. The jokey relationship with the readers is something that EC started. The kind of twisted sense of humor that EC got from the radio show Inner Sanctum, he brought into his writing style. So I'm really enjoying this stuff. It's an omnibus of short stories. I can't read them all, in one setting, because they are kind of the same sort of story over and over. And it's why with the DC showcases and omnibuses, I can't read all of them, whereas the Marvel, especially the Silver Age Marvel and into the Bronze Age, those are more of a soap opera, so you're reading just one continuous story that has a bunch of different parts. These are all pretty much short story, twist ending, short story, twist ending, short story, twist ending. The next thing I am geeking on is Marvel has announced that they will be keeping their Epic line in print for the foreseeable future. So one of the things in recent Marvel solicitations, you've seen older epic books that have sold out are being reprinted. So this is how Marvel's going to keep the older books in print, kind of like they did with the Essentials. Because until, I think it was 2012, either 2012 or 2013, they discontinued the Essentials. They have been replaced with the Epic books. Yes, they cost twice as much, but they're in color, which I know some fans prefer. For me, the Silver Age stuff looks much better in black and white, but that's just me. And but I like the fact that they're keeping this stuff in print, so that if you want, you can still, eventually they'll have all of Spider-Man in print, all of the X-Men in print, etc., 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 rather than having to buy this stuff in the super expensive omnibuses. And then the last thing that I am geeking on, let me pull it up here, is, oh gosh, that's the wrong page. There we go. DC has quietly done away with double shipping. They were double shipping most of their better-selling books. And I've noticed in the most recent catalogs that they very quietly done away with that. Flash is coming out once a month. Other books are coming out once a month. I think part of the reason they're doing this is because, again, DC is cutting back on the number of comics they publish every month. And there is a feeling that if they publish fewer books, the sales on the ones that they do publish will go up. And they've been shown to be right on that for the most part. It's not 100% accurate. I think in a lot of ways, the books that sell over a certain level will sell over that level. But the lower selling books are actually doing better. And I think that's because people come into a shop and they're budgeted. I can only spend this much on comics per week. And if DC's putting out 100 comics a month, people aren't going to buy 100 comics a month. They may buy like 7 or 8. So rather than DC catering to, okay, this person's buying 7 or 8 books, so that's 90 books they're not buying. Instead, it's more, okay, they're buying 7 or 8, so that's 10 or 12 they aren't buying every week. So, but I know that some people were upset about the double shipping. I know Marvel still does the double shipping. Me, I like it because it moves the story along, and it actually makes it more exciting in some ways. I know also that retailers hate the every other week and weekly shipping. And Joe and I will be talking about that in a future podcast. But as a reader, I really like when stuff comes out every 2 weeks. I know when Marvel started doing it in the early 90s for like X-Men and Spider-Man and their high-selling books, they double ship during the summer. And that always made summer a little more exciting because, especially on Spider-Man, they would do, we're going to have this 6-part story going through June, July, and August. And it was, oh, cool, that's fun. And really, for a 6-part story, it means that it's 3 months rather than 6 months. Or a 12-part story is 6 months rather than a year. But more and more people would rather their books come out monthly. It's also easier on the artists so they don't have to change art teams all the time. So for consistency's sake, I'm okay with it. Well, believe it or not, kids, you listen to Joe and I in a Pancake House blathering on about comic books for an hour and a half. And as we say every week, the comic we like the least, we still like better than the comic that you like the most. And Joe's not here to give one of his terrible jokes, so hit my music.